Welcome to the Unsidelined Life, the podcast that challenges and encourages women to stop denying themselves a full life and to step boldly into the opportunities God is preparing for you. Join me for raw insights and engaging conversations to guide your journey of self-discovery and pursue the life that God created for you. Welcome to the Unsidelined Life. This is Eileen Noyes, your host. This is my second podcast for the day. And as an introvert, this can definitely be draining, but I'm excited because I have a fellow Packer wife on here who we've done time together, but there's been a lot of time that we didn't do together. And so this is going to be I don't know. It's weird because it's not like we hung out. There's something about offense having their own group, defense having their own group. And so sometimes we don't really connect. I think it's a lot of times it's typically a Bible study that kind of connects us as, So I'm super excited to have Julie Wells on the show. I don't know. I just have a feeling it's going to be a fun conversation. So she's already just providing me energy. So I'm going to give the stage. Julie, you look amazing.
Thank you.
Honestly, I can say this just because I feel like my kids will look back at when I had my firstborn and they literally Mom, you look younger now. And they'll say this. They'll go, Mom, you look Asian then, but you don't look Asian now.
Don't look Asian now. It's still me.
But I had short hair. I had glasses. So I could totally see where they're coming from. But it's funny how, over
That's
time.
funny.
But yeah, seriously, you look great. You look more mature.
Thanks.
But you look, I'm just
Thank
oh
you.
yeah, I love seeing your face on here. So. So yes, please introduce yourself, what teams,
Okay.
how long, family, all those things.
Okay. Well, like Eileen said, I'm Julie Wells. I'm married to Scott Wells, who played in the NFL for 11 seasons. We started in 2003 in Green Bay. That was our first team. We'd been married for 2 years, and I had a 6-month-old baby at the time. So I was thrown into that. And then we were with the Packers for 8 years and then finished the last 3 years in St. Louis with the Rams when they were in St. Louis before they got moved to LA. Yeah. So that was kind of our years.
Okay. I totally see this is how it is. You lose track. I didn't even know that you were on another team. That's why I said when I said teams, I was I'm proud.
It's not a team. We always claim the Packers.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's definitely different.
It was a different experience.
Yeah. So, okay, good. Because that's another thing that I want to talk about. So you said that was just the last 3 years.
Yes, that was the last 3 years. That was in 2015. So so it's been 10 years since we've been out.
Wow.
But I went into it with one baby kid, came out of it with 6 of them.
6. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so expand on that. How old are they?
So our oldest is 21. So we have 3 biological and 3 that we adopted, and they're all kind of mixed in there, the ages together. So our oldest is 21. He's biological. Then we have 2 daughters who one just turned 18 and one's been 18 for about 6 months. So they're not in the same grade. They were different grades. And then we have 3 boys. 2 are adopted, one's biological, but they are all 3 in the 9th grade. So they're like triplets, twins.
Seriously. But the girls, they're not biological siblings.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I want to get to that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do all the football stuff because you guys have to understand that I am calling these women who I literally haven't talked to in at least a decade.
Yeah.
And then it's totally catching up. So it's okay, don't talk. Right. I don't want to ask this question. Let's get this on air first because I want to be real. And, I love to just show this side that people don't see, especially more so as this whole WAGs idea is out there and social media was not how it's not. Yeah. How it is right now is definitely not how it is back then. And so I want to take back and give these women back a personality. And so that's why I'm doing this here. So, and I always do different questions here and there. How did you guys meet? Because I think that you're probably one of them that
we met in high school.
See? There's
So
like
we've
so
been
many
together
high
since high
school
school.
sweethearts.
Yeah. I know like Lindy Campman, Aaron and Lindy Campman,
The
Clifton. There's a
Nelsons.
weird, yeah, Nelsons.
They're like preschool.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I think they were. And I think Chad and Candy Clifton go back to like middle school.
wow. Oh, the Cliftons. Oh my gosh. See, okay, if you're a Packer fan, these are what the early 2000s. This
Yeah.
is like this is the bomb
Right.
like time.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. Wow. I just did my last interview with Jeannie Peterson.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And just so this is the thing. It's like I'm realizing that with all the Packer guests I've had, I think they were all on offense.
Yeah.
All the guys are on
Yeah.
offense. So I'm like, okay, I need to get some defensive well, actually I take that back. There's one defensive end. But I'm like, man, like I'm representing like
Yeah.
the offensive side.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's of like and honestly, there's different personalities involved in that, which is
Yeah.
why I wanted
Right.
to get you
Yeah.
on here. But before we go that, like, okay, so you guys met in high school.
High school.
Like for you, how was that transition? You said you're married for 3 years and you already had a baby.
Yes. So we got married when we were 20. We were barely, I think I turned 21 4 months after we got married. So we got married after our second year in college.
Big wedding, small wedding.
Small wedding, very small, didn't have anything. It was very small, just family, few close friends. And then, we went back to school and he finished school and I worked. But so then it was about 2 or 3 years after that then he entered the draft and I had a baby. Jackson was about 6 months old. So
Okay.
I had a baby our senior year, pretty much was what it was. Yeah.
Wow. You guys grew up quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I always look back on, I'm from Tennessee, the only place I'd only been to like Florida and Mexico. So then to be told I'm going to Green Bay, Wisconsin, that was like, whoa, I don't know where this place is. Culture shock.
Wow.
But there was such a relief. I remember the first time, I want to say it was probably a family night or something practice. My mom and dad were with me. I have this baby entering this world that is, I have no idea what I am doing. But the first people I saw, Lindy Campman came up to me, Tara Davis, Bree Henderson. I remember seeing you. And even only having 1 year when Jeannie Peterson was there, all of these women had a huge impact on me and were so welcoming and loving. And even though it was a short time of just 1 or 2 years with some of those women, really, I'm so thankful for them and how they did take me in.
That's so good to hear because I think, not knowing, well, you can contrast that because I only knew the Packers and didn't know anybody else. But
Right.
yeah, you're right. Like, I just think, gosh, we had a lot of solid women.
Yes, we had a
And
lot of support and I felt supported. And I will say going to another team, that was different. That it wasn't like that.
Okay. So you said 3 years. And okay, so sometime, well, you said that like once you were there, you were like welcomed right away. And I felt the same way. I felt I'm on the shy side. So I probably, in my personality, I probably like kind of probably sadly, I wish I didn't, but I probably kind of had a wall up, which I didn't. And so it took time. So when you went to the other team, you said St. Louis. Oh my gosh, completely different dynamics. Did they have things like that?
No, there wasn't. There was not any, how we had our Sherry. There wasn't. It was hard.
Yeah. Wow.
There wasn't. And there wasn't anything put together for us to bring us together in that. And so it was different. And so I just had to find different outlets and ways. But it just made me so thankful for where I started at and had such a good experience in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking back, and you were one of them, like it was, I would say, and I typically don't go serious like this, on the podcast, but there was a time of a lot of tragic things.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't say this on air, if you're okay with it.
Yeah, no.
You had Brett's dad who died.
Right.
You had Donald Driver's, I don't know if it was a parent. It was
a parent. And I remember Tara Davis went through some.
Yeah. Like when my firstborn was born, Kabir's mom died. And so you had also experienced
Yes, I
Your
had
second.
stillborns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those were the second ones, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that was our second year in the league, I think, or maybe our third. I don't
Okay.
remember. But
And
it was
is it
early on too.
Deacon and Dax? Am I right?
Deacon and Maddox.
Okay, Deacon and Maddox. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But even then, just the embrace from that group, from, that whole group, which I guess it all came from a Bible study group, was really, we
Yeah.
all, that was y'all were my family. And it felt
Yeah.
like that.
That is an amazing thing to cherish. And I talked to Lindy, but I haven't talked to her in a long time. It's
Right.
funny that you say Brie Henderson. I had her on the show.
Yeah.
I had Tina on the show. I'm hoping, because I'm going to go to Texas next week, so I'm hoping to connect with her. But yeah, and so there's a lot of things. See, people don't realize that.
No,
this is
they
part
don't.
of,
Yeah.
life,
And I still feel, yeah. And even though, like you said, I haven't talked to maybe 10 years, but I still feel that connection to those women and feel like if I was with them, it would pick right up.
Yeah,
again.
totally. Okay, so this gets me on vegan O-lineman's wife. Okay, I'm gonna give my perspective because I've had different talks with the women, and so one of them was with Emily Nelson, and so she's super quiet. So I look at Midwesterners as more quiet, more introverted. I'm introverted, but I'm completely open, and so I felt like, gosh, Midwesterners, I don't know, they just seem more quiet. And so when we talked about a topic of family expectations, tickets, and things like that, I think it opened my eyes. Even being in it, it opened my eyes to the fact that there's culture differences with race, which is, again, I would love to talk to you about that. But when we talked, she was like, we didn't have a lot of the problems that they had heard, whether in Bible study or different things, family expectations with finances and things like that. And I was like, wow, it's not that you didn't want to share. She goes, we had compassion, but what could we give or share if we didn't experience it? I'm like, oh my gosh, I never looked at it like that. Yeah. So in your case, was there something that, again, outside of the online thing, but was there something, were there things that, that you just had a perception about and it was squashed, or even stereotypes that you kind of saw in there?
I think I did have in my mind kind of a vision of what I thought all these women were. And then that was debunked because it wasn't like what I thought at all. Thinking that everyone was going to just be all glammed up all the time and having all this stuff. And that wasn't it at all. And that was so good for me because I was like, I can't do it if everyone is just all this all the time. I was like, I'm not going to fit in.
Yeah.
But
so did you have insecurities coming in?
Yeah, I had some insecurities because, I had a baby. It was all new. I didn't want to mess anything up or get in anybody's way. And I did feel like, new coming in, I'm just going to stay in my role and in my lane.
Okay. So when I used to be a strength coach before at a college and I worked with all the athletes. One thing I always have I've always been intimidated by O-linemen. So in college, I was like, they're different. They're scary. and then it continued. So you got Mark Tausch. Well, not Chad Clifton was not like that, but Mark Tausch, he was super different and he scared me, although he was super inviting. Yeah. And so I don't know, and so I'm wondering, how am I off?
No. I think my perception is that, yes, they're very kind of like Mark, I would say, and Scott is similar to that. They're very private at first, but they're willing to tell you anything and talk to you about anything. It's just, they aren't going to be the first ones to put it out there. They're very private and protective of their space, I guess.
Okay. Are they on the crazier side?
There's probably some of that. I mean, I would say they're a different breed. Yes.
Okay.
And they stick together. They stick together. There's that camaraderie. They aren't, the flashiest ones on the teams. They don't get that spotlight. So there's not any of that really. There's none of that ego kind of thing, I guess, of other positions. But they're very friendly and funny and realists, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, for some reason, I just think that there's a distinction that comes with the territory. And I'm sure there's something in that mentality that is the protector. I mean, shoot, this is the
Yeah.
O-line. This is the
Right.
one who picks the quarterback. And so like, like let's talk about like it sucks that they don't get the credit. And not that it's about that, but it's like they don't get the credit until but if they do something wrong,
they're the first ones thrown under.
Now, is it like when you guys went through pressure, did it go beyond just the game? How did you guys handle that stuff? Because Scott was Aaron's. Was he Brett's?
He was Brett's for 2 years. Yes. Yeah. So he had Brett for 2 years and then Aaron.
For 6. Right?
6. Yes. Yeah. I would say there was one season that was really hard, that they were kind of going through some changes and moving some guys around. And I remember it was very hard and very tense, but I also my kids were so little. I was still just in survival mode too, of taking care of my kids. And so it was balancing, the emotions and stressors of what's going on with my husband and then my kids, but I've got to keep it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really hard. And I never felt that. And I probably put that on myself. It wasn't anything that I felt like from Scott or anyone else. I probably just put that on myself.
Yeah, which I'm sure we do a lot of.
Yeah.
So when you say that, do you mean like, you didn't want to stress Scott out with like the kids stuff?
Yeah, with the kids stuff, or with me being worried or upset about it.
Okay.
Not wanting him to know that.
Yeah. Now, does he
I knew already. He would. Yes. Yeah.
Like, how did that conversation go when you're like, okay, like, you had no idea that I felt this like this? Like, was it like that or not necessarily?
No, not necessarily. I was just like, when you were going through all of that, I was struggling with it as well. And also taking care of these kids, which he didn't have to. I mean, that was just what I did. It's just the way it was. But that I was struggling, with being alone a lot during the day, unsure what's going on, what's going to happen with us. But yet I've still got to make sure I have all of this together and that I'm doing, because they have to live too. I can't just check out. Yeah, I'm sure, again, I don't want to push this off to later, but I'm sure for you in those dynamics, there's probably stress. Because I didn't realize how close they were. Did you have help? Did you have stress relief? Like, how did you handle all that? I had a couple of really good babysitters, some girls that would come in and help me during the week. And they helped me with a lot of things. And really, that was how I got through it. And my mom would come up a lot. Okay. And would help us. And it was did you have did you have a cleaning lady? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Like once a week. And now that was always a stressor. The cleaning lady was a stressor because, the clean before the clean. And then, right? And then like if I did it on a Tuesdays weren't good because those were off days, so we didn't want to disrupt anything. So it was just, the cleaning lady was always kind of a source of a trigger of just a nitpicky thing. Oh, yeah. And weird, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so I bring that up because I could be like a young wife maybe watching this. So for me, I know that when that topic was even brought up, like, because we went from a duplex to a bigger house. Right. And I think we had like 1 or 2 kids and we still didn't have a cleaning lady. And Drew would ask me like, hey, do you want that? And I felt like, you're attacking me as a wife. Like, it's my job. Yeah. And I can do this. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm going to spend all day cleaning. I am not going to spend any time with my family. Yeah. Okay. Hey, it's okay. It doesn't make me a bad wife, not at all, because I'm asking for help. So that's why, like, I bring that up. But it's funny because I totally know the cleaning. And Scott never made me feel bad about having that done. It was just always, well, when's a good time to do it? Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. Okay. So
I'm trying to think, do we cover, so, okay, if like, let's stick with football a little bit longer. Like what were your biggest challenges? And what was you guys went to Super Bowl. Did you go to more than one?
Yes. No, just the one.
Just the one.
Just the one.
And what year was that?
2011. Yeah.
And who
It
did you guys
was
play?
the Packers and the Steelers. That's who it was.
Okay. See, and this is what I remember. I think so. He got cut 2009, and then I don't know if it was the year after. Is that when the Campmans got? I know we're getting personal. Sorry, I'm getting personal.
Because the Campmans weren't at the Super Bowl either. I think that was the first year that they were gone. Also.
Okay, so yeah, because I'm just thinking, ouch, like that feeling. The fun of the game.
Yes.
There's also emotions of the game. So not only do you get cut, but then there's the ones where, when we played, it was like, I'll never forget this, like 4th and 26 against, it was like the Eagles. Like we should have won and we didn't. Yeah, we didn't make, we obviously lost.
Yeah.
And so that was like the heartbreaker for us, because that was like the closest thing to the Super Bowl. And
so
then
hard.
I think about like the people like the Cammons, they get cut it's like the year after. And so there's a weird, like, I don't think I've watched football for a couple of years.
I wouldn't have either. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I remember at the time being at the Super Bowl, because the Cliftons and Tauschers and Campmans and us, we were all very close. And I remember we all felt a weird feeling because we were like, they should be here too, but they aren't. And it's hard. It was a hard, weird feeling.
Yeah. So it was hard in that way. But like, how was it? Like, what's the Super Bowl like? Like,
it's an experience unlike no other. Now, what I think was weird was that I'm at the Super Bowl with 3 kids and my mom and sister went with me to help. But the whole time you don't see your husband hardly at all. Like, they don't stay with you. They're at a completely different hotel. It was weird.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
I mean, sometimes they would come over to our hotel and hang out, and I get it. I understand why they're there for a job. This is, at the end of the day, I know it's a business. You're there to do a job. But there were just it was like me and the kids doing stuff, for me and the wives and all of our kids doing things without our husbands.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
like that.
Back on it, I'm like, it was so bizarre.
Yeah, kind of fun, kind of weird. And was it 2 weeks or a week? Wasn't
just
it
like week. I think they were there. I think the guys were probably there for like a little over a week, but I think we were only there for about 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
And so that was 2011.
I mean, and it was an awesome experience. I mean, and after it, when you win, the experience of being on the field and seeing all of that, it's very surreal.
Was it stressful? Like, you said you were with the family. Was it stressful? Okay. Yeah. And I guess I'm saying this because
Super Bowl tickets were stressful.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I was going to say.
I mean, in all through our years, we never had any issues with tickets, families wanting to come to, none of that. But then the Super Bowl tickets, that was when it got tricky and weird, because we still have to pay for them. They weren't free.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, and was your family free? Did you get any free?
I feel like we got like 5 free, maybe. Yeah. But I think they were allotted, like maybe they could get 20 or something. And then you had family, everyone that wanted to go and really wanted to. And then I'm having to tell them, well, here's how much it's going to cost. Whereas before, your tickets were free.
So was that, did you get pushback? Were people offended?
No, they weren't. And it ended up being fine and worked out. But that was just an experience. I'd never really dealt with that side of it before.
Yeah.
Tickets. Or, hey, can you get us tickets? Can you get us tickets? I'm not in that business.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, that's good. See, and that's the thing. And I wonder, like, I mean, I know it's not totally isolated to race, but sometimes you wonder, okay, like, I know culturally in, being Filipino and with Kabir's and being Nigerian, there's definitely a thing of an obligation to, like, okay, you make it, you gotta kick back.
Yeah.
And so I know that, like, the American culture, I just feel like, oh, like there's differences. And so it's hard to transition through, or, like when you don't live, I don't live in the Philippines anymore. He doesn't live in Nigeria anymore. So it's like that weird transition of like, gosh, things, the way that they're done before us is not bad if we're trying to, transition out. And so, it's been interesting. Okay. So now as we get into this thing of race, like you adopted, what made you guys do that? Like what made you guys, like, timing wise? I mean, oh my gosh, like, yes.
Well, since Scott and I been together since high school, we both come from families where we had 2 other siblings. He came from 2 brothers. I had 2 sisters. I always wanted 4 or 5 kids, and adoption was just something that I always thought of growing up. And Scott and I always talked about it. I say growing up because we were growing up together. We were teenagers. And Scott grew up, his dad was a pastor. And in Tennessee, his dad worked at the Tennessee Children's Home. Well, it was a children's home where they sent the juvenile delinquents. So they were basically like middle school, high schoolers that had just gotten into trouble and they have to go live at this home. So Scott lived at this home with always a bunch of these kids.
Okay.
And I was around a lot of that too, because we were together. So I experienced that too. And for both of us, it was just wanting more kids, but also seeing what happens to kids.
Okay. Wow.
And
I never knew this about. See, I love this. It's like all we know is football. I love that. I'm getting to know, like, side of like, oh, I should never knew. Yeah. Okay. And so you guys are drawn to that just right away.
Right. And in our area in Tennessee where we were from, when we started looking into adoption, we wanted to adopt more than one. And we looked into international because there was a large group in our community that had adopted from China and Uganda, and Honduras was some of it. And so I felt like there was a good community. If we picked any of those, we could kind of have some support system, which was how we ended up choosing Uganda. And there was a part of me, both of us said, I know we're adopting, out of our race, but I feel like that's something that needs to be seen. And, there are going to be questions, and I know it's not going to be easy, but I just felt like that's something I can do. I'm ready. People need to see this.
That's awesome.
And that was just how we ended up on Uganda.
Wow. That's so cool, because you're putting yourself in a position where people are going to talk and people are going to say things, and you're willing to do it.
Right. Like I knew I was putting myself out there, and I've told people, ever since then, I'm like, I asked God for something and he gave it to me. Like, be careful what you ask for, because he will give it. And he did.
Wow.
And it's not all roses. It's hard, but I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I remember Jackson, because Jackson is, my second son, Ollie. Yeah, they were together. So, and it's so funny because I remember how he looked. I literally can remember how he looks. And I have not seen a picture of how he looks now, but he was just husky. Yeah. Well, you sent me a picture. So I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So now, as you have like the kids, like, what was your hardest thing when they were young? And then we'll go with how it is now.
The toddler years were the youngest because I all of a sudden had 6 kids, but 3 of them were 3 years old, and they were 3 boys. So I feel like there's like 2 years of my life that I just don't remember. And there was so much focus on those littles because, I had to, that Jackson was probably about 10, and there probably was some attention that he didn't get that he probably needed with my older. And that was probably all 3 of the older ones, just because so much was required of those littles.
Like, did you see, okay, so you have Jackson, and then you have the 2 that are the same age, right? They're like,
Lola and Caroline. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And those are the girls. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And that was another thing. They were so easy of just entertaining themselves, pretty much.
Okay. So even though they weren't did you get them at the same time, right? At the same time?
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's pretty crazy. So they're basically like twins.
Yes.
Do they get along? Did they get along? Do they always get along? Like,
they get along. It was always Lola and Caroline. It was kind of like a big sister and a little sister relationship, even though they're like the same age, because Caroline was 5 years old when we brought her home too. So that was,
they were young.
No, so she wasn't, the boys were tall, they were two. She was older.
Okay.
So there was some learning curve, some things there, and continued through her life. And she's doing good now. But they're all close. The three boys, it's like there's always kind of an odd man out, but they'll just
threes are just threes.
that rotate. Yes. Yeah. But they're all very close.
Do you feel like you're living on the sidelines of your own life, cheering others on while your dreams gather dust? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. I'm Eileen Noyes, and I've been there too. As a former NFL wife, I felt like I was in the shadows as someone else pursued their dreams. But here's the truth. God didn't create you to be a spectator in your own story. That's why I wrote Sideline No More. This book is your playbook for reclaiming your purpose and living the life God intended for you. Whether you're an athlete's wife or simply feel stuck on the bench, it's time to get in the game. Sideline No More will help you discover your unique talents and passions, overcome the fear holding you back, and build a life of purpose and fulfillment. Don't let another day pass feeling unfulfilled. Get your copy of Sideline No More today at ladybellator.com/books. That's LADYBELLATOR.com/books. It's time to step off the sidelines and into your God-given purpose. Your adventure awaits. Oh my gosh, that is so cool to hear. Like, okay, so you're talking about that. And so even now, like, I know, okay, when it was like the Black Lives Matter time. I don't remember the years.
Yeah.
I remember having conversations with my kids. I mean, they're all my blood.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I just remember thinking, there was a conversation and it was like, even though I'm their mom, there's a place that there's just a disconnect and there's things that I couldn't understand. And that was super hard. Like, are there issues? Have there been issues like that?
We haven't had any issues. And I'll say this too. They all have really good humorous personalities. So I think that helps. There has been times where they've just told me in school when some things are maybe said or something, they're old enough now. They know how to they laugh it off, or really we haven't had any issues at all, but we've had to have those talks of, say Kingston, our biological son, they're starting to drive in the next year. I'm like, when y'all are out, if y'all are ever stopped, it's going to be looked at like you don't belong in the car with your brothers. I was like, y'all just, and just having those conversations of that, what do you do? How do you better heart? It sucks.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I do feel really safe in our area, in our community, and that there's not any of that we feel or see.
So all your non-biological, they're all from Uganda. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Now, do they have they questioned like wanting to see their parents or anything like that, or do they ever give you stresses of like, Mom, they talk about us, anything like that?
Yeah. No, they haven't. I mean, they say they would like to go back, and we would like to take them back too. It's just finding the time and cost and all that to take that many back to Uganda. There's been times they'll have to do some research projects or something, and a lot of times they don't even realize or remember that they're from Uganda.
God, that's why I'm trying to think they're just like, I'm a well.
Yeah.
I'm a well.
Like, they'll do something, we're looking something up. I'll be like, that's like in Uganda. Like, I can help you out here. I'm like, do they even like just the way they adapt or whatever? I'm like, now I don't even know if they feel like they came from somewhere else, which is what I don't want them to feel like they came from somewhere else. But then I'm like, you're from Uganda.
Yeah. Well, and I understand because so when I hear you, because I know people that have major challenges and things like that. Like I look and like, wow, like God, you did like, this is so cool to hear.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would have thought that there's way more challenges and, things like that. And so like, I think also like, okay, I wonder if people are going, they need to know that. Again, this is all people from the outside who we shouldn't care about.
Yes.
But it's the people going, oh, like they should know their culture more. They should know this more.
Right. And Scott and I both, we've always just kind of led with it, let them lead it. Like,
okay.
not really wanting to open up something that doesn't have to be open, or just letting them lead it with their questions and it coming from them.
Yeah.
Or when we see something, we're able to kind of pick up on it. And there's a lot of things, just back from when they were little, genetics and DNA is real. It's funny. Even, if you get them from a baby or a toddler, there are things they do now and we look at each other, we're like, that's genetics.
Yeah.
But it's just been interesting. And
yeah.
I remember we adopted the lady that was helping us, just talking about struggles and things. And she was a Christian. We were talking about praying. And she was like, just remember, don't count. DNA is real and they are a part of some other human beings. And so just always keep that in mind when things are going, there's a whole other system in there that you have to be sensitive to.
Like, okay, because I know what you're talking about, but are you open to expand on that? Like,
yeah,
a little bit.
Okay. So one of our sons, Eli, he was abandoned, but in Uganda, they did find his birth parents. So when we were there were a couple that we had to spend some days with the birth parents, just going through court and attorney's offices and things. And so I would pick up on things from the mother and the father. And as Eli's grown up, you kind of I go, like he can be very mischievous and very much kind of, we always say like an Eddie Haskell type.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Everybody loves him, but he can be a little sneaky. And Scott and I both were like, that was his dad. His dad there were so many, and things like that. And then I see more of his mom in him sometimes too. Okay. So yeah, that was, it was sad and good to have that. Both, it's awful and sad, but it's also, I'm so glad that I did have that and get to experience some of that because it helps me see. And someday, and I can tell him about those things.
How involved is Scott? Is he, well, actually this, like how was that transition? So kind of going back to football, but kind of going into action. What did he do after? Was it hard transitioning out? Was it, cause when you're in football, it's yes, you have your Tuesdays, but it's busy.
Right. Yeah.
How was that transition for him as a husband and as a father to all these kids?
So there was only about a year that he took off that he wasn't working. Now he volunteered coaching at the school that our kids were at the time, because I think Jackson was just starting 6th grade. So he did help out with some coaching, and then he started substitute teaching classes at that school. Well, then it was about a year later, then he ended up getting a full-time job there. So I say he kind of transitioned, but he didn't. He went right into the next thing. Okay. And there's good and bad things on that, we've both said now. But he went right into something that still kind of gave him some of that camaraderie of a locker room. Yeah. He was able to be around it some. And I think that eased him out of it some, going into something like that. That helped him. For me, the biggest thing, it was not having those women that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
longed for.
Yeah. I know it's not all my friends they're not local. They're just
right.
Marco Polo is a great friend. It's a great school that I just did not like before, which I have now. And it's funny because I think with what I'm doing, like podcast stuff, it's like, wow, like the polo, like looking at your face. Right.
Yeah.
It helped.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let me ask you, it's like, okay, so kind of transitioning into you, like, I know you're a real estate agent. Like, do you do this because you're so like, your background is perfect. Like your presence is amazing. You look good. So I'm like, okay, this must be something you do. Is this part of like your job or anything like that or no?
I mean, no.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I do it pretty much part-time.
Okay. I mean, are you on, do you have to do Zoom calls? Do you have to do things like that or no?
No, I don't. Okay. Really.
You're just a natural. Cause seriously, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah. Okay. So now like, let's get into after season. Did you guys just leave?
Yes. We would leave. Yeah. So after we finished season, Are you talking about in
like after the football season ended, you guys,
we would always leave and come back to Tennessee for a couple of years and come back. And then then when the kids kind of got school age, we stayed longer and they would stay in school.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so once you're done in New Orleans and then you went right to Tennessee.
Yeah. And then we came right back home to Tennessee, and we had some friends here and we had a home, and we just kind of went right into what the next step was. We just flowed right into it.
Yeah.
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 But the hardest thing too, I just felt like I had lived a separate life somewhere else. And then I was here and no one really knew anything about me, because I had had so many life experiences with, it was that whole early 2000s group of women and experience that I had there, losing babies and things like that no one else really experienced with me but that group.
Right. Yeah.
And so finding that it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
so you went
there's a whole life I've lived. But
yeah. Now, do you have family there, or that's?
Yes. Yeah.
So you've been with them. How was that transition?
It was kind of weird. Like they just don't understand some things sometimes, why you're the way you are, really.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they were great and helpful.
Cool. Okay. So now you are into, actually before this, so I remember when it had to do with the twins. So yeah, that's why I even remembered a name. I did bet that.
Right. Yeah.
You had a tattoo with a name on it.
Yes. On her back.
Did you have tattoos before that?
I did. I had one tattoo before that.
Okay. So you had that. And then the last time I saw you.
And then we've just gotten more.
You both gotten more.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. So how much is more?
So I have on my right arm is a whole half sleeve of some flowers. And at the time I just had my 3 biological children, and each flower represented one of my kids. And I had one for Scott and myself and my mom.
Wow.
And then years later, when we adopted, I did have, Scott and I both have, it's the continent of Africa, but there's the Tennessee Tri-Star State flag has 3 stars in it. Okay. And so that's in the middle of the continent of Africa.
Very cool.
It all fit. And then, so I have a lioness tattoo on my arm that also has 6 African violets around it that all represent the kids.
So cool. You guys are all about your kids. I love it. Oh my gosh. Now, is Scott coaching any of them right now?
He helps coach high school football. So he's kind of in and out doing that. And he coached our oldest. He coached Jackson all the way through all of his football and all of his wrestling. And that was intense.
Yeah. What position was Jackson?
Jackson was a lineman, but he was small. But he was a lineman. But Jackson is very much, he's an artist and thinks outside of the box, but he was also a very good athlete. So a lot of it just on paper, it didn't make sense. He's a great athlete, but he's also very artistic and loves designing clothing and shoes and all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome.
So he's a different one out of the box thinker, but he's doing great.
And so he stopped after high school.
He stopped after high school.
Does anybody follow footsteps?
Kingston, who is our biological, and he's a freshman in high school. He loves football. Like that's what he's saying. That's what he wants to do. And he studies it. And he's just a different kid. Cool. They're just different. Like he watches like old 90s games.
That's crazy.
It's just a student of it, really. So we've just kind of let them lead with it and encourage it and know that they aren't their dad and there are no expectations of that at all.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. Super cool. Okay. Now let's get to you. Like how it, and not, because obviously, motherhood, being a wife is part of these things. But just for you, there's always something in us that even if it's not monetarily, it's just something like we all need something. Yeah. So for you, how does that look?
Ever since I was a kid, all I ever wanted to be was a wife and a mom. And that was what my mom did. And I thought my mom was, the greatest thing ever. So that was all I ever wanted to be, was a wife and mom. And that was what I did. And I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity and that I was doing that. It was when I was in my mid 30s, late 30s, when the kids were kind of getting in that age, they were aging out of elementary school, going to middle school. I was just feeling that urge of that I was needed, but I was having a lot of time of just me at home.
Sure,
And like, you can only go to Target so many times and have so many purchases where I'm like, there's got to be more. And I had some friends in real estate, and I knew it was something I could still do and still be that wife and mom.
Yes.
It's whatever I decide to make it be. If I want to work at 100 hours a week, I can. If I can't, I can't. And knowing, moving around, I get how the dynamics of moving, and especially if your husband's working a lot, it's a lot on you, the wife, doing it all. And I was just really feeling the need to find something that was just me, and for my kids to see that I was also doing something, not to put anything of what I'd done to downplay any of that, but for them to then see my mom's 40 and she went back and got this and she's doing this.
I think that was really important too, because, I just remember hearing when I first got married, had kids, like, there is that feeling of like, well, I'm just a mom. Like, I don't have I don't have a job. And I remember it was actually the guy who led Kabir to the Lord. He's like, don't ever say that you're not like that's such a huge thing. Yeah. And then it almost like kind of turned where, like, when I'm seeing, and just as you're talking about, like, okay, well, they're not always going to be little. And there's definitely like things in me that I would love to pursue. It was almost like a guilt that was there. I'm like, no, I should only be wife and I should only be mom. And if I do something like that, it's like I'm selfish. But it's like, wait, there's seasons. There's seasons, and they're not going to need you like the way that they need you when you're little. And so I just like to, even with this, like, to open up that conversation. It's like, hey, you're doing something that fills you. You don't have to do it, but it's something that you enjoy doing. You get to meet people, you get to be out there. And for sure, like, I think about, like, I want my daughter to have like God's definition of who she is. Yes, like, God calls her to be a wife, God calls her to be a mom, but I see her and I see how gifted she is in so many different ways that, like, I'm like, I don't know where you got the whole dancing gene, because it did not come from me or your dad, the whole singing thing. Like, and so like do use these things for God. And there's going to be seasons where you may not be, because it's going to be like that devoted mom or wife time and the kids time. But like, I want them to see, like, hey, mom's got some things going on too. Yeah. And so I think it's something that, like, the devil always tries to just do things on either side to
for sure
make us like focus on like the not good enough or the things like that. But so I love that you're doing, things on your own. I mean, I honestly, like, I'm so inspired. Like, this is really cool. Like, to me, having that conversation with like Jeannie Peterson, it's like, whoa, or Brie, like how much time passes, and that, life moves beyond like football. And these are people that are living like amazing lives and doing things. Like, I mean, there's struggle in it, but I'm like, wow, like, you've got this family, like, look what you did. That 6 kids at that. Like, that's, and
I never would have thought they're old enough and I can get a job. Like, I have 6 kids. They literally do grow up. They do.
I mean, I guess in some sense, because like I would say, like, people would go, oh, like, I can't believe it. Like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, well, they're not all the same age. So that was my thing.
Yeah.
But so there's a couple good things and bad things about that. Like, I'm like, okay, they're not all the same age, but I mean, shoot, I still have a 6-year-old. He's 6. So there's a whole long way that.
Right.
So, but for you, it's like, to me, like, okay, they're all so close.
Right. It's like, now so close in age. Those early years were so hard, but now I feel like I'm just going boom, 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 one after the other.
I mean, they're going to be, it's like, even though you had 6, they're going to be out like all the
same
day.
It happens fast. Yeah.
That's
Because
okay. So yeah, okay.
I had one graduate 2 years ago, and now I have a senior again this year, and it's just all of the.
What's your youngest one? How old is your youngest one?
Youngest is 15, but Lola is a senior this year, so she's going to
Okay.
graduate.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so for you, like I look at like how you guys handle things. And I mean everybody's life is different, all
Yeah.
experiences in the NFL. But I look at yours, I'm like, wow, like this is cool. Like it's just I don't want to say smooth, but it's like you just like, okay, like this is the next season.
I just always just rolled with it, really.
Mm-hmm.
I just always rolled with it and was like, well, just figure it out. Because still this day, I don't know how I did it. I can't tell anyone how you do it. How did it? I don't know. I just got up every day and did it.
Yeah.
What else
and
was
now,
it?
did like, okay, this may like, did you with Scott, like, did you ever have like seasons of harder times as a couple? Like,
Yes.
was there...
Yeah. I think there were times because when our kids were little, there were times, he didn't see what went on all day when I was in there in the trenches of the home.
That's funny. He's in the trenches and so are you. Yes.
And I probably, there was probably some resentment at the time when probably I fault him for something he didn't really know. So, but there was things of him not, or me wanting to get out and go do things at night or something with him. And he was just not wanting to go do things. I'm like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah, sure.
Some of those little things, but it all ended up, it would just be a season and we would get through it and work it out. And
like, yeah, this is good. Okay. So, I always try to end with this question, like knowing what you know now. And I know it's different. Like I have a lot of compassion for the younger ones that are involved in this world.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I honestly I feel like I have to remind myself to have compassion because I think that the way that they're molded, more so is like they have to carry this image and this facade. And I don't know. I mean, it's like, so to me, it's unappealing, but I'm like, man, that's a pressure. Because I mean, like we didn't have the pressure that they did, but yeah, for sure. I mean, there was fun things of like dressing, like I talked about that, like where it's like, okay, we went from like being outside in the cold, just totally trying to be warm to just looking cute, and like there's nothing wrong with that. But like, what would you tell like someone younger? Like, what advice would you give them?
I would say to find those women that are there, that have been there, that are still there. Find that, because they will be your biggest asset and resource. And for me, they were, and they were my friends, and they are there. I would say 99% of them want to help you and want you to be happy because y'all are all literally in this together.
Yeah.
And to just take in the moments. Don't take any of it for granted, all of it, because it is something literally that how many people get to do what we did. And I can't imagine it now just because everything is put out there, everything of everyone. But really finding that group of women, because I feel like my closest friends, there was offense and defense, but it came from all of them. We were all one and we're together.
So that is so good. Just hearing you say that, because like when I talk about my book, I talk about like, hey, like regardless of all the social media and all those things, that is great advice that you have to anchor to the ones that have gone before you. And so, awesome. Julie, like, I don't know. I just, when I see your smile, you light up a room.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Yeah. I love so like when I see, well, Bree said this to me, which I thought was hilarious. Cause we kind of just, to an extent, we know what we like experience. Right. I would say that you're probably, Kabir and I weren't as close to, some couples. I mean, there's just different relationships, different seasons and like time frames.
Of course.
But so when when Bree came on the show and she's like, when I heard all the things that you're doing, Eileen, she was like, Eileen, like she's so quiet. I'm like,
no, you were super quiet. But I always
Yeah.
felt you were quiet, but you were also very willing to talk. You were always so easy to talk to. And
Yeah.
like, in a sense, maybe intimidating at first, but then like, Eileen will talk to you about anything,
Yeah.
and she's
I will.
literally there to help you.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I'm like, gosh, was I that quiet? But there was probably, it's like you have to do a lot of reflection. Like, why was I quiet? What,
Right.
was I quiet?
Yeah.
Some seasons were super harder than others.
Right.
I remember like some pastor's wife came up to me and she goes, "You look so sad." And I was like, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Like, what?
Then you
And
look back on it and you're like, what was I doing in my life? Right.
yeah,
Like, what
exactly.
was I, or was I just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, well, there was for sure, I would say the first 5 years of our marriage was really, really hard. And then it got good.
Yeah.
And then it got bad.
It got a little sad face.
It got really bad. And then, okay, like, how did you hear about what happened with us and what ran through your head?
I heard about it probably through Lindy somewhat, I feel like, and maybe Scott too. But I always remember Scott and Kabir, they both respected each other a lot, but they would also go at it a lot over like biblical things and Bible verses, because Scott coming from, a preacher's kid background, and Kabir, a new Christian, but he was so into the word. He and Scott, they would butt heads a lot,
Yeah.
like over, I guess, reading scripture out of context or in context, just think. But Scott will also say too, he was like, Kabir also made Scott go look for it himself in the Bible. Because yes, he grew up a Christian and knew everything, but that when Scott would be like, no, that's not right, he would literally have to go look into the word and find
Which is not, yeah, okay.
Yes.
See,
there were some things that happened and he was like, it doesn't surprise me.
yeah. Now that you bring that up, like, there was always he had a simple mind. Like, so he came as a child.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what the Bible says. But then, yes, there's for sure, like, just you saying that and like that legalistic side of him, I can understand totally, like, that you guys are like, okay, we're surprised, but we're not surprised.
Yeah.
Right. Because the thing about this cult, and not only this cult, this is crazy. It's not isolated. There's literally women that are going through this now, not in the same cult. But the common thing is there's zealous, like, men who want to, like, who are Christians. Like, that's it. So you're not going to get a guy who's like not a Christian who doesn't care about the Lord. But those are the ones that are like kind of pursued and sought after. So I remember those days where I literally be like, okay, what are you saying? What are you saying to these guys? I felt like I have to temper down or put out the
fire.
Yeah, I totally felt like that. And I felt like, like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And so as shocked as I was, there was also that, well, gosh, okay, I can see how something like this can happen. But I mean, the cool thing, and I remember this, I think it was like before he got cut, I definitely remember where it's God in his faithfulness, where it says, like, he works all things out for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. That as like tense as Kabir was, at least it caused other Christians to go, okay, I gotta check my walk and I gotta like step it up in the word.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and that's what it did. And there were times, I remember Scott saying this, he said, I had to tell Kabir, I was like, because they would get heated and intense over it. And he was like, other guys that don't believe, they don't need to see two believers, two men doing this. This isn't helpful to the team. We're not bringing anything. So many times he would just be like, I've got to just back off.
Yeah.
Because, Kabir, he was coming from a good place, but it was just it's like, this isn't good for others that don't believe to see this.
Totally. Yeah. So insightful because, it's like, you just look back and go like, what the heck happened? And at the same time, like,
there were,
wow. Okay, cool. Like, I mean, it was good to know, but I just wanted to hear that part. But
And then I just want you to know that not all of us in Tennessee are like that weirdo cult.
Oh, that's right. You're in Tennessee. Oh, that's right. Duh. You know where it is?
We're not. I've never heard of it. I was like, oh my gosh, is this for real? Yeah.
Wait. It's in Lafayette. Is that not near you? Have you?
I think it's pretty out there. It's not near us, but I think it's kind of like in a real kind of rural part, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But I'm like, what? No, I promise we're not like that here.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's cool. Like, I don't know, like, because I didn't know your husband very well. And again, like that whole thing of like scared of alignment. I just remember there were just some points that I'd see, and I don't remember it was like during, like when he played or not, but I was like, whoa, like those moments of just, and like I said, I don't remember, but there was like, oh, like, wow, like Scott's a tender dude. Like, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, just knowing you, it's like, I always see something and then that's just like, so it's cool. So
all of them are linemen. Like I think of Mark and Chad and Scott, knowing them, like they're sensitive. They are.
Okay. And that makes sense too.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. They are.
Because guys that are sensitive are going to like put on the guard. Right. Okay.
They're these big, scruffy guys, but they're sensitive.
Yeah. And I think all men are.
Silly. What?
Yes. Yeah. My husband's like that too. Let's put it that way. Like, okay.
Maybe it's a man thing. I don't know, but I gathered it from those linemen too.
Yeah. I think in general, for sure, a man thing. I'm learning more and more of how to communicate in a way.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's different. And I didn't realize I had to learn it in a different way because of what I went through. That I like, you know, the quiet Eileen wasn't so quiet. I would be like, I'm gonna take your crap. And so my husband now, he's like, okay, like so I have to tone it down. I have to be feminine and do all that stuff. So anyways, okay, so we're hitting the hour mark.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
I'm so glad you're doing this. I love this, and I love following
I loved it with you. I mean, this honestly, this is what, like, and I never thought it, but I'm like, this is fun for me.
Yeah,
this is fun. Like, there's other parts that are super hard, but just to like have a conversation like this brings me joy. It makes me laugh, and so
I love it. I love it. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for being on here. Thank you for being real. You seriously are inspiring. Like, I can't wait for people to hear it, because I love that conversation about the kids and all the things. So Julie, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Eileen.
All right.
Until next time, love well, celebrate your strength, and discover the new things you are capable of. You are a light in the lives of those around you, and no night is too dark for you to find your way.